16 and 7 respectively on our Player of the Year race here.
No slouches.
No. Both these guys can play some Magic. Caleb Scherer actually coming off of a 12-3 last week in the Grand Prix Columbus with Storm.
12-3 is...
That's a good record.
That's a lot of wins.
That's a lot of wins, not very many losses. Both players were in the Wandering Fumarole mirror. That's where we are right now.
This is in stark contrast to everything we've seen so far.
A Mountain, a Jace, and we'll see how long this thing tries to run the place as we head Jim Davis's way.
Well, I don't even think Jim is that scared of this Jace. Even if it were to flip, it's not going to have a huge impact in this game.
I guess that's true. You know, how much can Caleb's Jace actually do? Which the answer might not. The answer may be just not very much. Here's an activation of Jace, so Scherer will draw and discard.
You know, it's so far from flipping now. Sure, looting 3 or 4 times is pretty good at helping you craft your hand, but you just read off the list of all of these removal spells that aren't going to do much against Jim's deck. So, you know, sure, he gets to discard them, which is good, but he doesn't want to flash them back later.
Yeah, I mean, this is the best use for a Fiery Impulse, right? Discarding the Tormenting Voice, which he'll get to do. So 2 cards coming here for Caleb. And if Jim wasn't sure what Caleb was up to, just a pretty smart guy,
yeah,
this is definitely the goggles deck.
Yeah, now the jig is up.
Yeah, only one deck does this sort of thing.
And Jim knows that there's only a few cards he really needs to worry about in this type of matchup. Those cards being the Pyromancer Goggles. He's got to make sure that doesn't come on the board. And probably Chandra Flamecaller.
That's about it.
And, yeah, everything else, he can just kind of be in control of things.
Epiphany in the Drown Yard.
This is an interesting one.
For 2. So it's basically a cantrip right now. And Jim will get one of these cards, either Shrine or Hedron Archive. This was a card I played against a little bit recently in some of the tournaments I've been playing in. I like this card, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, it's a pretty impressive card, actually. It's a little tricksy, but I like it.
It is a little tricksy. To me, it's underwhelming. I think there's some better options in the format.
Okay.
It's nice because you can do it with almost any amount of mana. Like, that's what makes it good. But in the end, I think if you're just trying to generate card advantage, casting the 6 mana draw 4, the Dragon card.
Oh, Dragon Lord's Prerogative.
Yes, the Prerogative. Like, you know, that's just a better place to be to me.
Sure. Jim with the Highland Lake. Pass the turn back over to Caleb for his 4th turn of the game. Active Jace out there, 3 cards in the graveyard. 2 to go until a transformation will take place.
Sun's out, guns out for Caleb here. I like it.
Yeah. He's doing his best Andrew Boswell right now.
He doesn't quite fill out the tank top quite as much as
the
Boz.
Not everyone can be the Boz.
Yeah.
I don't think Caleb does the pottery that the Boz does. So that's, I think, where Boz has actually developed a lot of the tone
for
those arms. Boswell actually putting a video up on Facebook and I think Twitter of him making a pot. He said, I still got it.
Yeah.
Which was pretty great.
Was it a video or just, it was just the pot that he made?
It was the pot that he made?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's just like, I just kind of made this from scratch.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
He's like, I just sat down, banged this one out in no time. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I look at pottery is one of those things you see people doing it and you're like, oh, sure.
And then you actually do it, and you just have no idea what you're doing?
Yeah, there's just clay everywhere, and the thing falls over, and you're like, I don't know how anyone's ever done this.
This is an interesting play there by Caleb. He casts a Jace with the intention of just letting it die.
Yep.
Keeping my active Jace, then drawing and discarding. He'll discard Yavimaya and transform. So Jaceman's Prodigy is here. And Jim didn't really panic. He was just like, all right, that's fine. I think Jim may have identified here that Jace in this matchup, not a card he has to be very scared of.
Sure. Well, and Caleb flipping it as soon as possible, he might have identified his path to victory being an ultimate Jace emblem here.
Okay.
And so that's why he rushed it a turn ahead of schedule.
Well, it's up to 6 now. Shiro passed the turn back.
You know, with the cards that Jim flipped off of the Epiphany at the Drown Yard, it's pretty clear that Jim's on a big mana deck.
Yeah.
And Caleb knows he's got to start doing something before Ulumogs come down and ruin his day.
There's Shrine, and Jim will just pass the turn back. Over to Caleb we go. Picked up another copy of Jace.
This board's a little too cluttered for my taste. I think we need to get back to a nice, clean, green-white token strategy mirror.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Lands and a planeswalker for both sides. This is just not good to watch. I need as many tokens and emblems out there as possible.
Yeah.
And just Oath of Nissa lying there doing nothing. Caleb's got a Goggles in hand. Not sure if he wants to try to resolve the Goggles right now.
Well, yeah, Jim hasn't tapped mana like any turn of this game so far, so it's quite likely that he's sitting on some control, counter spells.
Here's another Jace.
But it's questionable if Caleb has the time to try to play around those cards.
Yeah, at least my answer is, I'm thinking is no.
Yeah.
I think he's just got to do stuff. Jace up to 7. But maybe the thought process is, I'm not going to do anything because I'm just going to try to resolve a flurry of spells once I get to the emblem, if I ever get to do that.
Yeah.
All right, here's Epiphany of the Drown Yard again. 4, 5 cards. Jim gets to split them into 2 piles, and then Caleb chooses which one he gets. I was hoping it was the 5-0 split.
Yeah, the old 5 nothing. Let's see if he makes a mistake.
There's a Spatial Contortion there, a Hedron Archive, and Jace Unraveler of Secrets.
And I think this Hedron Archive is really important for Jim. We see he's got 2 Ulumogs in his hand. And, you know, that Jace has to worry him a little bit.
Yeah. I'm curious, you know, if I could read Jim's mind, what he'd be thinking about the Jace right now. Is he panicking? Or is he just like...
I don't think it's panic, but he needs to have a plan to not just get emblemed and then milled out of the game.
Sure.
But on the flip side, the Ulumogs go to work quick.
They do.
So if he resolves one of those and just gets to attack with it twice, it's possible that the emblem just doesn't do enough, is not fast enough.
Clash of Wills and Hedron Archive in 1. Clash of Wills, Jason Reveler of Secrets, Spatial Contortion in the other pile. Caleb will choose which one he gives to Jim. I think with the way he split this, realistically, the card he cares about the most is the Hedron Archive.
Yes.
I think that's the one that he wants. And that is not the one Caleb is going to give him. So time for Davis to untap and draw. Chandra has been found.
Chandra's a pretty good one. The tokens can battle the opposing planeswalker.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives him the option to cash in much of his hand to draw a whole new grip if he wants to. And we can see he's working with a lot of cards at this point.
Davis taking a little look at the graveyard there. There's land 6. Another Shrine.
Yeah, the only thing Jim is worried about, he's thinking, if I tap out for this Chandra, could it just be too bad for me next turn?
Yeah, what happens if I do this? Maybe it gets countered, something like that, and then, you know, do I take a huge blow as a result?
Well, the worst case scenario is kind of the tokens get killed or they don't get killed. The Jace still has enough counters to flash something back, and next turn Caleb goes Goggles, flash something back with the Goggles to draw 4 cards or whatever the case.
Jim just went with Spatial Contortion to take care of Jason past the turn back, so we're going to head back Caleb's way. Nothing big from the Players' Champion just yet. For Scherer, land number 6 is a Shivan Reef. And now what comes next?
Yeah, not a lot has changed for Caleb here. He didn't want to tap out to play the Goggles last turn, and I think he's in a similar situation here.
Yeah, it's just going to pass. Slowly working towards the Jace Ultimate. I think he's trying to mask the fact that that's what he's doing. By, you know, kind of sifting through the cards in his hand. I mean, his hand kind of stinks.
Sure.
Honestly.
But there's nothing really else to distract Jim. like there's only one non-land permanent on the board. It's hard for Jim not to be aware of what's going on here. You know, maybe if Caleb had a hat that he kind of slowly slid and left over top the Jace for a couple turns or something.
Yeah, not a lot going on to divert Jim's attention right now.
Yeah.
Here's a Shivan Reef for Davis.
And I think next turn, he'll be able to deploy that Ulamog.
Yeah, he needs one more land now. The Shrines are online. They're both tapping for 2. So right now, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana available. Jim might be thinking Chandra.
Yeah, to me, Jim does not need to panic here. The Jace still needs to tick up one more time. So he can wait the extra turn if he wants to.
There's Chandra. The thing that you kind of know, if Jim knows what deck he's playing against, the thing that you know is just Caleb just doesn't have counter magic either.
Yeah.
And if he does, it's very limited. He is a deck that has a lot of spot removal. That's what the deck is all about.
Probably neither of these elementals are going to get the job done. Caleb can activate the Wandering Fumarole here, and then use one of his 1-mana shock spells to get rid of the other elemental.
There is an activation of Wandering Fumarole.
I'm a little surprised that Jim chose this course of action.
As opposed to, what do you want to see instead?
He could have waited the extra turn.
Okay.
But also, if he doesn't have another land in his hand, he's probably thinking, hey, I can't let this Jace ultimate. Like, if I don't draw a land next turn, I can't play an Ulamog.
Yep.
Now I'm forced into playing the Chandra anyway. Might as well get it onto the board a turn sooner.
And he can't really, because he has both Ulamogs in his hand, he can't 0. I guess he does have 3 Ulamogs in his deck. That's a lot of Ulamogs.
No, well, he's so close to casting them, I can't imagine he would 0 at this point.
Yeah. It's not a time of desperation.
Yeah.
Where he needs to do something like that.
All right, we'll return away from that Jace now. We'll take one more look at the back of that guy.
Yeah, we'll take a look at Jace Vryn's Prodigy. See what the emblem is all about. -9. You get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. You ever had a Jace emblem?
Not that one.
No?
What other Jace emblems are there?
That's like the only one that really matters.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, here's Ulamog. Caleb is no more. No more.
Yeah, Ulamog was just enough to do it all by himself.
Yeah, it's game over. So I think Caleb is in a horrible matchup.
Yes.
I think it's – we'll get to a sideboard in just a second. I think this is horrible for him.
Yeah.
I don't really know what his path to victory is, and getting to Jace's emblem is so slow.
Yeah. We saw him take that approach.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't close.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a turn away, but Jim had a full grip the whole game. Almost never cast a spell because he didn't have to.
And the thing is, right, if he gets to Jace's emblem, it's not like it's game over.
Well, 5's a lot.
Yeah, like, milling 5's a lot, but, like, Caleb then has to cast spells to win.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
you know? So, like, yes, you get an emblem, but now you have to do all this work to actually mill me. It might not take very long, but you actually have to have the spells to be able to do it.
Sure. Caleb's deck is actually set up pretty well to do that if he gets a decent draw. With the Magmatic Insights and the Tormenting Voices, he can efficiently churn through his deck for not a lot of mana.
So Jim Davis is going to win game number 1 here over Caleb Scherer. Blue-Red Eldrazi up a game over Blue-Red Control. We go to the sideboards. We're going to start with Caleb because things do get a little bit interesting here.
Yeah.
4 Fevered Visions, 4 Eldrazi Obligators, 3 Reality Smashers, 3 Negates, and Exquisite Firecraft.
So I expect like 14 cards to come in here. Everything, maybe even the Exquisite Firecraft comes in because he's got so many dead cards in his deck already.
I think that's in play.
Yeah. He's, the Lightning Axes, the Kozilek's Returns, the Fiery Impulses, these are all cards that are just not doing anything for him.
On the other side here for Jim Davis, 3 Reality Smashers of his own, 2 Prophet of Distortion, 2 Fiery Impulse, 2 Negate, 2 Roast, a Dispel, a Jace, a Kozilek's Return, a Rending Volley.
So some of the control cards here, the Dispels, the Negates, they're going to be really strong in this matchup. I don't know if he wants to mess around with much of this other stuff. It's kind of interesting. These Eldrazi Obligators are just super tricky.
Okay.
Like, they can steal a giant creature and just get in for tons of damage.
That's true.
Or, if Caleb's ever ahead with the Fevered Visions, they could just be a 3-1 haster to get in there.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we're going to see a lot of the time is just 3-1 haste to try to beat you down.
Yeah.
Because Jim's deck doesn't have a lot of spot removal. Jim's deck has a lot more counter spells than actually spot removal. So we'll see. I think the dynamic is going to change a little bit here, and certainly with Caleb on the play, that's going to make things a little bit more favorable for him. But I think game 1 is going to look like what we just saw a high percentage of the time.
Well, even this game 2 might not even be that good for Caleb because Jim's deck has so many counter spells in it. And he's going to know about a card like Fever Visions. So I imagine he's going to try to play in a way to represent a counterspell on turn 2 or just have a counterspell on turn 2 to not get blown out by the Fevered Visions. And there's not a whole lot else he needs to worry about.
Yeah, we'll see. This is going to be an interesting second game, I think. These players are going to shuffle up, get ready for game number 2. So we'll very quickly talk about the Players' Championship that's happening at the end of the year at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia. We've got 5 players qualified. Max Viti did win your Season 1 Invitational in Columbus. Jeff Hoagland, Jerry Thompson, and Andrew Tenjum earned invites via the Season 1 points race. They were their top 3 players there. And then Jim Davis is your defending champion. As we make our way through Season number 2, we've got Andrew Main on top of things right now, Joshua Dickerson, Peter Ingram, Tom Ross trying to chase him down, and someone's got to win that Invitational in New Jersey as well. So we'll be filling this in, as Craig points to himself. You can't see that. But hey, you know,
I got big dreams.
it's tough for me. It's tough for me here in the booth, man. That could be you in there. That could be you. And then you'd have some pretty big bragging rights.
Yeah, I mean, then you could not pick me to win again in the top 8.
Look, don't take that personal. I'm just trying to be objective when I'm doing my job.
That's fair. You weren't picking people, so I shouldn't take it personally.
Well, I will. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Okay,
You
sure.
should take it first. Yep. We're going to learn a little bit more about these 2 players very quickly. We'll start with Caleb Scherer since he will be on the play here for game number 2. Las Vegas Invitational Champion is a 27-year-old. We saw him win that Invitational to qualify for the Players' Championship last year. One of the most entertaining stories all year last year is how the only chance he had was he had to only win 13 matches in a row.
Yep.
That's it.
Rattle
to qualify.
them off.
Yeah,
Yep.
just had to win 13 matches in a row to qualify for the Players' Championship, which he did, beating Vidianto Wajaya in the finals in Las Vegas, and then made day 2 of our Players' Championship. So a heck of a run from Caleb, a member of Team Nerd Rage Gaming, teams with Joe Lissette and a couple other players. He loves his math, loves his peanuts, travels a lot, lives out of a backpack. Heck of a Storm player as well. As he gets ready here for game number 2, he's going to start things off with a Highland Lake as we head Davis's way.
Differential geometry.
Yeah, it's
What
really
do you
easy.
know about that?
Super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll inform you after the round's over.
It's probably the same thing as regular geometry,
Yeah,
right? But they
T-
just give you a graduate degree for it.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Okay.
It's something I do in my spare time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in between watching the Cavs destroy the Warriors, I do a little differential geometry.
I like how you paired one fallacy with another.
I have a way with words.
Yep.
I have a way with words. Here's a majoring network. Jim already reaching for the die. We know what's going on here.
Yo, I mean, we haven't even mentioned the big game on Thursday. Last Thursday.
Didn't we lose that one? No, we won that one.
No, the U.S. men's soccer team won that game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's an Eldrazi Obligator. Attack for 3. Don't ever bring up soccer in the booth again. You're out of here.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah. Never again.
I knew it would be easy to get kicked out of here, but I didn't realize it was that easy.
Oh, yeah. Wrong time to be bringing up that game.
Dude, that was a big win for the U.S. team.
I bet it was. Who'd we beat? Soccer aficionado?
So it's the Copa America?
I'm asking you. You answered that like it was a question.
And this is the first time I believe the U.S. has made the top 4 of this tournament.
Nice. Nice. That's pretty good.
And to answer who they beat, I don't remember.
A profit of distortion here from Davis. We'll take a look at that one. Limited All-Star. Don't see a lot of constructed, but it's actually very good in this deck.
Yep.
And it is a 1-2. 3 and a colorless to draw a card. It's devoid. And it's not alive anymore. Discarding a Fiery Temper off a Lightning Axe.
And this is kind of what Caleb has to do. Get some pressure on the board, resolve his spells when he can, and try to get after Jim.
Yeah, like next turn if he has another land, I think we're going to see Wandering Funeral get turned on. He just has to give the beatdowns. He's the aggressor in this matchup. I don't think he has any choice.
It looks like a Reality Smasher in Jim's hand there. Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that card in this matchup for Jim.
Might be a good blocker.
Might be a good blocker. It's not great against Obligators.
No, not really. I guess the question is, did Jim know Obligators were coming, though?
Yeah.
Maybe if we go to a third game here.
Well, and, Caleb's got the full complement of 4 Obligators. That's not something you expect.
Yeah. Obligator is just not a card that sees a lot of standard play.
And even if it does, you expect 1 or 2.
Yeah. Wandering Funeral here from Jim. He's passing back. Let's go back over to Caleb. He'll draw. Well, Caleb looks like he has a lot of lands. Picked him another copy of Shivan Reef. Is he going to go towards the fumarole?
Yeah, not a lot of decisions here for him.
Yep, he'll activate.
Zoom, zoom.
Beatdowns. He'll spin it. All right.
Yeah, he's saying, I'm willing to risk this thing. I got nothing to lose here.
Doesn't have much else to do. Jim is going to tick up the Mage Ring network to 3 counters. Drew a copy of Clash of Wills. And you can do a decent look at his hand. He's got another Oolong over there. Chandra as well.
Looked like a Drowner of Hope in
That's the big one.
there. Yeah.
The Drowner is the big one.
Lots of threats off of one card.
He'll remove 2 counters.
Nope, got to remove
3
all
counters,
3.
Yep. There's the Drowner. 2 Scions on the way. Highland Lake, pass the turn back. Caleb quickly untaps. This is Exquisite Firecraft. That makes things really easy. Caleb Scherer is going to win game number 2 here over Jim Davis. Blue Red Control, Blue Red Eldrazi, going to go to a 3rd game. You can kind of change Blue Red Control to Blue Red Aggro after side.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the only way Caleb can win.
That's what he needs to do. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a whole lot of these cards to get on top of Jim real quick.
Yeah, that's kind of the tough part. I think a great example is the fact that he has to leave in Lightning Axe.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, like if you know Jim has Drowner and Smasher, then I think it's reasonable
Sure.
to do this sort of thing. But I also don't think he has enough cards to sideboard out where he has to leave Lightning Axe in.
Yep.
Because he has rubbish like Fiery Impulse, Coast Edge Return. I don't think Fall of the Titans is especially good in this
Nope.
matchup that he has to leave in a card like Lightning Axe. And realistically, like Fiery Temper isn't good, but it can deal 3.
It's not good.
I'm not excited about Lava Spike, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do when you're the aggressor, right?
Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Now Jim's on the play here, so we saw Reality Smasher, which he did not cast. We saw Drowner, and then he died. We saw Prophet, but I don't think that Caleb is trying to play a long game, so I don't think Prophet's gonna do very much. So, do you want to sideboard a little bit differently or no?
Yeah, it looks like Jim's going back to the drawing board. I don't know if he's just being cagey, not letting his opponent know which cards are going to be in and which cards are going to be out.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those changes.
Yeah, he got beaten down by Obligator there, so maybe he brings in a little bit more spot removal like Fiery Impulse, which is good against Obligator and Wand and Fumarole.
Sure. Well, being on the play this game opens up more of his counterspells to deal with things like that.
Very true.
So he still might not want a whole bunch of that stuff in the deck.
But I am curious what his configuration will be because I also don't think this is a matchup now where he wants to have all 3 Ulamongs after sideboard. I think he might want to, not to say Ulamog's bad, I think it's fantastic, but I think that the only way Caleb can win is by pressuring him, so it's not so much about Ulamog anymore.
Yeah.
So we'll see how these players do sideboard. Caleb's already shuffling up. Jim is taking a look at some things. So we're going to go over the Season 2 schedule here on the SCG Tour very quickly, where we saw the Columbus Invitational won by Max McVitie. We went to Milwaukee. We went to Indianapolis. We went to Atlanta a couple weeks ago where Tom Ross won. Now we're here in Orlando. Dallas next weekend for a little bit of modern action after all the standard action does take place. Then after that, Worcester, Columbus, Baltimore, our regional championships, we'll talk about a little bit later in the show because we have all the details ready for that to go. Syracuse, is that close to you?
Syracuse.
Yeah.
Not very close.
No, is it not?
No.
I don't know New York very well.
Yeah, New York's pretty big. It's a pretty far drive.
Okay, maybe we'll see Craig there. We don't know, but I know we'll see you at the New Jersey Invitational weekend.
Back home, I'll be there.
There you go. You can get your victory there. Avenge your loss in the finals against Max McVitie. Now, remember here on the SG Tour, we changed things up for Season 2. Different playmats you can be getting. For Standard, Sigarda, Heron's Grace, which is what everyone who entered today got here in Orlando.
These are sweet playmats.
I love these playmats. I got a little spoiler for you guys. Next season, look out.
Even better?
I'm not giving you anything besides that. Just saying.
I felt like this season was 3 home runs.
Look, I love Sigarda. I love the Innistrad Ghost Quarter. I think that one's really, really good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for Legacy, we've got Thalia, Guardian of Threeman. Next season, we did better.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. We
Wow.
did better. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. I'll probably get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these are just usually, little cheesy weak leads.
No.
But no, I'm looking at your face, and I believe you.
This is all I can say. Free exclusive playmat here through the rest of Season 2. For Standard, Sigarda. For Modern, Ghost Quarter. For Legacy, That is, of course, Thalia. If you play in a Season 2 Open or Classic, as we head back down to the match. Both players laying out their opening hand. We're going to see if they'll keep in play. But in the meantime, let's learn more about Jim, the player's champion. You should know who he is by now. 32-year-old from Long Island, New York, with his 10 Open top 8s, 2 wins, most recently in Baltimore, where he destroyed everyone with Bant Company.
Yep.
That was a beatdown that weekend. He streams. He's a DJ. He won the 2015 SCG Players Championship. All-around good guy. Team captain of TeamMetaGameGurus.com as well. And you know what? He really likes this Blue-Red Eldrazi deck. I know Jim is someone who kind of likes to go against the grain at times. I thought we might see him play green-white because it kind of falls into the Bant Company-esque area, at least to me, like similar style of gameplay. But I think he's really kind of grown to like this deck.
Well, I think the appeal of a deck like this is that you're attacking the format from a completely unique angle. So when you run into a deck like this blue-red control deck, just so many of their cards are dead.
It's very true. This is, I don't want to say it's a buy because, you know, we're about to play Game 3.
Yeah.
But I think this is the kind of matchup where Jim wants to be paired against this kind of deck. I think he's happy with this kind of pairing. You know, Fiery Impulses, Kozilek Returns, Fiery Tempers, Lightning Axes, that's all rubbish against you.
Well, and some of the other control decks have similar problems. If you play against the black-white control deck,
oh, this is a nightmare.
You have counter spells for all of their planeswalkers, and then a lot of their removal, the Ultimate Price and Languish and Grasp of Darkness, they're just dead cards sitting in the opponent's hand.
Yeah, I played against Michael Siegel in Atlanta, round 9 of day 1, and I knew what he was playing, and I was just like, jeez. You know, he crushed me. It wasn't even close. Game 1, draw a bunch of Grasp of Darknesses and Ruinous Paths, a bunch of garbage. Can't win then, and then their sideboard's actually just better than what you have. Siegel at that tournament had Fevered Visions to bring in, which is very good against white-black. It's just a nightmare matchup. I'm curious to see, and hopefully we'll get the opportunity to see, as Davis is taking mulligan, how this deck lines up against humans and green-white.
Yep.
Those are the questions for me, because if it lines up well against those decks, we're talking about a really good deck in Standard.
Sure. Well, we were talking about how the green-white tokens deck is maybe 30% of the metagame.
Yeah.
Which means there's 70% of other decks out there.
Yep.
And if he's saying, my green-white tokens matchup is not great, maybe it's 50-50 or just under that 45-55 kind of a thing.
Okay.
He's okay to give that up to play against the rest of the 70% of the format where he feels like he's doing something unique enough that he's good against them.
Both players underway here with some blue-red lands. Wandering Fumarole and Highland Lake for each of them as we head over to Jim Davis for turn 3. Davis with a spawning pool, and he'll pass the turn back.
Yeah, his deck gets to play some of these weird lands.
Excuse me, spawning bed.
Yep.
Fevered Visions will be countered by Void Shatter as we go over to Jim Davis. Now, what's interesting there, a little, at least in my opinion, is sometimes we've actually seen the blue-red Eldrazi deck play Fevered Visions itself. So to see him counter one, I don't know. Maybe sometimes you want it. Here's a Hedron Archive. Now he's really ramping. But he said, I don't want that out there.
Well, the Fevered Visions only does damage to the opponent.
Correct.
So, you know, drawing the extra cards might be great, but I don't think Jim can just afford to take this recursive 2 damage every turn.
Where's another Fevered Visions for Caleb?
Although he might be in an okay position here, with being able to deploy the Archive.
We can just cast all his spells now?
Where he can stay ahead. The only issue he might have is where he ends up with too many reactive cards in his hand that he just can't cast.
Davis will draw a card. Epiphany of the Drown Yard. There's a Shivan Reef.
Yeah, if he casts this Epiphany, it means that Fever Vision is going to deal him damage every turn for the rest of the game.
I think where he's going to go is Drowner. He's at least thinking about it right now. His hand right now is Drowner of Hope, Epiphany at the Drown Yard, and then Void Shatter. Those are the spells he's working with right now.
I think Drowner of Hope's a good play here.
I think it's reasonably safe. I guess he doesn't want to put down the counter shield. So he'll take 2.
Which he might be okay with just taking 2 damage for the rest of the game. He might cast this Epiphany at the Drown Yard for the full amount. You know, he's leaving up a counterspell. If he uses it, great. If he doesn't, still fine. Cast this big Epiphany and just have so many cards to work with. You know, if he resolves an Ulamog, he can exile the Fevered Visions.
If he resolves an Ulamog, this thing's over. But well, I guess I forgot about
Yeah.
I forgot about Obligator.
Obligator is something that always has to be in the back of his head.
Yep. It's not all the way over, and he does have Obligator in hand.
Yeah, it looks like Caleb is thinking about if he should deploy one. Caleb doesn't have the colorless right now to steal an opposing thing with Obligator when he casts it.
Take a look at Caleb's deck. He's got 4 Drownir Temples, a Yavimaya Coast, and then 4 Chivalry. So I'd say plenty of colored sources.
Yep.
Or colorless sources for Obligator. Looks like he will play an Obligator.
And this is interesting to me. He's used all of his blue sources to cast this. I mean, he's a deck that can represent a card like Negate if he wants to.
And he has him in his sideboard.
And he's choosing not to.
Yeah. I mean, that's tapping that I feel like he thought out.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a mistake. Here's an attack for 3. Spawning bed, yes. Almost said spawning pool again.
All right, that's going to make 3 1/1 Eldrazi's.
Yep.
And one's going to jump in front of the Obligator.
Yep. Interesting exchange here. Now Caleb's just going to pass the turn back. He'll draw a card off of Fever Vision. So now we go Jim's way. That didn't feel like a good turn for Caleb.
Well, I don't know if it was particularly impactful for Jim either.
Here comes an attack. 18 all now. One of the things whenever you watch Jim play, he's pretty patient. He's methodical when he plays. But one of the things I've always realized about him is that, like last turn, he could have just went for Drowner and put his counter spell down, but he just chose not to. And I think that he plays a lot like that because now he can play Drowner. He'll get 2 tokens.
Yep.
2 Eldrazi Scions, and still has the ability to cast Void Shatter.
Yep.
Like last turn, he could have just said, I'm going to put the shields on for 1 turn. Let's see what you can do with 1 turn, and he elected not to do that. And I think that's just generally how he does things when he plays.
Well, and you can see just how careful he's being. You know, he sacrificed one of his Eldrazi in order to deploy this Drowner of Hope to make sure you can leave the counter spell up.
Eldrazi Obligator the draw yet again here for Caleb. But as you mentioned last turn, no colorless mana out there. There's an island.
Yeah, it looks like Caleb's got a whole lot of cards in his hand, but not a whole lot to do with those cards.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that was in Caleb's favor last game was just the fact that he was on the play.
Yeah.
I think that's a world of difference. Jim was able to counter the first few revisions. Second one resolved. He's all right with that. And now he's kind of moving accordingly. And he has the initiative in his favor. And now Caleb is, in a weird way, trying to catch up. And I just don't know how he's going to be able to do that. It seems very tough for him to do. So 2 Obligators in hand, a Fiery Temper. Among the options here for Scherer, he's also got an Exquisite Firecraft.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants to get this Drowner of Hope off the board. It's a really big body, but he's staring right into 2 blue mana and more from the Eldrazi Scions, so it's doubtful he'll be able to get this to resolve. He's going to commit 2 removal spells to try to kill it, get 1 countered, and the next turn be in the exact same position again.
Yeah, and that's a pretty bad spot to be in.
Yeah.
Here's Exquisite Firecraft. We will figure out what its target is.
It looked like he indicated Jim.
He's going upstairs.
Yeah. He's thinking, if you're going to try to ignore my fevered visions, I'm going to just compound the problem for you here.
I kind of like this. And the reason I like this is because I don't think Caleb can win a traditional game.
Yeah.
By trying to kill Drowner, I'll kill your creatures, I'll kill you. I think that's off the table. I just don't think it's realistic.
Well, and he's got those hasty obligators in his hand.
Yeah. There's Void Shatter.
So if he's able to peck away a little bit and Jim makes any sort of mistake, it's potential those 2 3/1 hasters come in to finish off the game.
Yeah. But in order for those Obligators to be really good, he's got to find colorless mana.
Yep.
Got to.
Well, he's thinking about deploying another Fevered Visions here.
All right. Scherer will draw 2 cards.
Draws him even more cards. Doubles up the damage that Jim's going to take from them each turn.
Mm-hmm. Assuming Jim can't get his hand empty. He'll draw a card for the turn, Hedron Archive. Got a Chandra over there.
Yeah, it looks like Jim can play an Archive, a land, and a Chandra if he wants to.
And get his hand pretty empty.
Get his hand pretty empty. He might need to cash in one of these Eldrazi in order to do it, but it might be worth it if it means he's not taking any damage from the Fevered Visions.
Yeah, one thing I know for sure is that that Epiphany at the Drown Yard, that's we're all done with that.
It's staying where it is.
Yeah, we're all done with that this game. Yep, he's got to cash it in. There's Chandra. It goes up to 5, which means 2, 3, 1 elementals are on the way. They've got haste.
Now Jim has quite the clock.
Yeah. Remember, he hasn't played a land yet either. One thing about Davis, always careful. It might seem straightforward to just say attack with everything, but he wants to make sure he's done the math. This is an attack here for 12. Scherer is going to fall down to 6. Davis will play a Highland Lake. And now Fevered Visions will trigger. Jim will draw 1 card. He'll draw a 2nd card. He'll take no damage. The cards he drew there were Wandering Funeral on an Island. Now we head back over to Caleb, who's drawing Magnetic Insight. And I'm just not sure, Craig, how he gets out of this.
Yeah, this is a tough spot.
Yeah. There's not a 16-point burn spell flurry, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, with these archives, Jim has been able to just play so many cards out of his hand. He's only drawn 2 counterspells this game. He's been able to cast them effectively to great profit.
Magnetic Insight there. Discarding Shivan Reef.
He discarded one of his colorless sources.
He fortunately picked up a Yavimaya Coast. And he has another Shivan Reef in hand. I think one of the things Caleb was trying to do was slow roll a colorless source, which I think is smart.
Mm-hmm.
Try to take you by surprise with the fact that I can play Eldrazi Obligator and take something.
But he's in the spot where even if he got a lot of stuff onto the board, the last Scion that's sitting around on the board can just tap something with the Drowner of Hope.
Yeah, so there's this interesting little game, right, where with Eldrazi Obligator, you cast it, that trigger goes on the stack, then you can steal, then Obligator resolves, I believe. I have to take a look at Eldrazi Obligator really quick.
Yeah, certain of these.
Yeah, so it's when you cast it, you pay it,
Okay.
and then you get to take the card. So what would happen here in this instance is you put Eldrazi Obligator on the stack, the ability to pay goes in the stack, you take the Drowner,
Yep.
and then the Drowner isn't on Jim's side of the table
Yep.
to be able to sack a token to tap the Drowner. Then the Obligator resolves as well. So then Caleb could actually use the Drowner to kill the Chandra.
Yes.
And then have the Obligator back on defense.
Yep.
I don't know if that's going to lead to a win, but it's a line of play. This is a Tormenting Voice. That's a Fiery Temper. Let's see where this is going to go.
Well, yeah, he's in such a rough spot where there's so many things that he needs to deal with at this point in the game.
He's got to draw like the perfect cards too, to drown your temples. There's a mountain for the turn. And just simply pass the turn back. 2 Fevered Visions. 1 is a Chandra. 2 is a Fiery Temper.
Fiery Temper's a good one because he's going to have to discard the hand size. So, I believe. So he can cast it for the 1 red.
Yeah, that's actually not bad. But can he beat what's on the battlefield here for Jim? That's the question I have, because I also think Jim might have a Wandering Funeral back there.
Yep.
It feels like Caleb found his tools too late. Clash of Wills might be the old check mark now.
Yeah, that's an insurance policy for Jim.
You see Jim already aware that Wandering Fumarole is within his lands. He'll activate Wandering Fumarole. It's time to come in, and that is going to do it. Jim Davis going to win this match here over Caleb Scherer. 2-1. Blue-Red Eldrazi will take care of Blue-Red in control. And for the player's champion, with his Blue-Red Eldrazi deck that you have to imagine he's looking to get paired against Green-White with, he's 4-0.
Yep.
I think this is honestly just a really good matchup for Jim.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we saw Caleb draw 3 Fevered Visions that game. He had 1 or 2 Eldrazi Obligators, and still kind of just got his doors blown right off.
I just, game 2 seems like the only way that Caleb can win.